Good morning, Kuhner country. I don't know if any of you saw his national address to the nation yesterday, but I got to tell you, I had very high hopes, very high expectations, and the president clearly delivered. This is the President Trump that won a national mandate in November of 2024. It was an incredible speech. It was a very strong speech. It was a very high energy speech, at sometimes a defiant speech, but it also now clearly set the terms and framed the debate for the next year for Republicans, his aims, his goals, his objectives, and really now what he wants to achieve in order to win the 2026 midterms. So, the president spoke for about 19 minutes to the country. The first thing that struck me, it was night and day in terms of vigor, in terms of passion, in terms of energy, in terms of power, lucidness, compared to the 4 years under Joey. It was night and day. And the other thing that struck me about the speech, so clearly we have a real activist, and I mean active in the sense that he's physically vigorous, mentally vigorous, full of energy. We have now a real president in the White House who is engaged, who is passionate, who is purposeful, and who wants to get so much done, and reminded the country on how much he's already accomplished in 11 months. Furthermore, it was a no-nonsense speech. It wasn't Reagan, it wasn't John F. Kennedy, it wasn't FDR, there wasn't, soaring rhetoric or some poetic turns of phrases. That wasn't Trump's intent last night. It was a no-nonsense speech. It was almost a speech delivered by the CEO of a company. In other words, this is the mess that we inherited. That was the dire situation we had when I first came into office. And now, almost like he's reporting to the board a year later, here is how much we've done. Here are the trend lines. We've reversed everything. It's all going in a much more positive direction. And by next year, really the second quarter, i.e. the middle of the summer, we are going to be clicking on all cylinders. So it was a very matter-of-fact, very deliberate, really, he was all business. He was very serious. He was at times extremely powerful. You can see in him, he wants to shatter the Democratic narrative that they've been creating with the help of the media, that somehow the quote-unquote affordability issue, i.e. high prices, i.e. high inflation, is somehow Donald Trump's problem. Well, he smashed that last night. I thought it was one of the most effective parts of his speech. President Trump made it very clear early on. The administration and the president and the party that delivered soaring inflation, high prices, the affordability quote-unquote crisis didn't happen on my watch. It was caused by Biden, it was caused by the Democrats, and it was caused under the 4 years of their administration while they were in power. Listen now to President Trump saying, America, 11 months ago, I inherited a mess. Roll cut 1, Mike.
Good evening, America. 11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans. This happened during a Democrat administration, And it's when we first began hearing the word affordability.
Now, he twinned it right away, and I thought this was very smart. Basically, his speech had two prongs. There was more to it, but I'm giving you the essence of the speech. It had two prongs to it. One, I inherited a nation in economic crisis, a nation pummeled and under siege and being crushed by inflation. This was all caused by Biden, and a wide open border, an invasion. That's what they bequeathed us. An invasion, a border crisis, an economy going downward, and an inflation crisis. Listen now to Trump saying, not only did I have soaring inflation and an economy flat on its back, I also had to deal with one of the greatest crises at the border in the history of the United States. Roll cut 1A, Mike.
Our border was open, and because of this, our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people, many who came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members, and even 11,888 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. This is what the Biden administration allowed to happen to our country, and it can never be allowed to happen again.
Now, what he showed, and I thought, as some commentators, this is not my phrase or anything, as some commentators said, this was political shock and awe. What he did was he reminded the country of just how horrible the situation was and what a disaster Biden and the Democrats were and how much of a hole they had dug for the country. And so, Trump is shattering the media narrative and the Democratic narrative. Whoa. Since when am I to blame for high prices? Whoa. You guys are unhappy with all the deportations? You're unhappy with ICE going into all these cities and deporting all these violent criminal illegals? Who let them all in? Biden. Who allowed inflation to get out of control? Biden. Who destroyed the middle class? Biden. And so Trump's argument, and I thought it was brilliant, and he laid it out with charts. It was an incredibly effective use of charts where he said, look at the data. Don't take my word for it. Here is the data. Under Biden, we had a wide open border. It is now the most secure border in American history. Under Biden, 20 to 25 million illegals were allowed to pour in. Now, millions of illegals have self-deported. Millions more are being rounded up, detained, and being kicked out. In other words, the trend now is in the opposite way. Under Biden, we were energy dependent. There was a war on oil, gas, fossil fuel, coal. Now we are energy dominant. And then in one of the most effective parts of the speech, he rolled out these graphs and showed that under Biden, gas prices went between 30 to 50%. They practically doubled. It was $5 a gallon under Biden. Under Trump, it's now less than $3 a gallon across the country nationally, and in some states now, it's less than $2 a gallon. Housing is coming down. Eggs are coming down. Most groceries are coming down. In other words, you look at prices across the board. They are starting to finally come down. And on top of all of that, under Biden, real wages plummeted. In other words, you had less money in your pocket. Under Trump, whether you're a factory worker, a construction worker, a coal mine worker, or you work in the private sector, your real wages are going up. And maybe to me, for me anyway, the statistic that stood out, Under Trump, 2 million new jobs have been created. All of it has gone to Native American-born workers, not to illegals, not to people who come from other countries on dubious visas like they did under Biden, but that this is now an economy that is working again for the middle working class, for law-abiding American citizens. All the pieces are in place, as he said, for one of the biggest roaring economic booms in American history. It was positive. Okay, did you watch last night's presidential address? What did you make of Trump's speech? Did you like it, not like it? Do you think it shattered, as I did, but I could, you may disagree with me, the Democrat media narrative that the country is in decline under Trump, that we are in the grips of an affordability crisis, and that the president is partially to blame, and that he has no solutions to get us out? What he did last night was he reset the table. He reminded everybody of just how bad the situation was before he got in, how much needed to be done, and what he expects to accomplish going forward into 2026. Now, one of the best parts of the speech, and again, I don't want to repeat myself or belabor this point, but he used graphs extremely well. Charts, graphs, evidence, facts, data, to back up his case. And so this is what he said about Joe Biden. And in essence, he was saying, under Biden, inflation was soaring, wages were dropping, the debt was exploding, there was very little investment coming into our country. It was horrible trade deal after horrible trade deal. Under my leadership during the last 9 months, the last 11 months, forgive me, it's the exact opposite. Inflation is down. Wages are up. Employment is up. Prices are down. The trend lines are getting better and better and better. Listen now to President Trump. Roll cut 5, Mike.
Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before. I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast.
Now, it's not just talk. So he said, okay, you don't believe me. That's fine. Don't believe me. He said, let's look at the facts. Now, this is what we had under the Biden administration. Now, please, because I know we're almost a year into Trump's presidency, and so we're kind of getting used to now, Trump's economy, Trumponomics. To me, things have clearly gotten better. I know I want things to get even more better. I hear you, but things have gotten so much better. And I think we're forgetting, because Americans tend to have a short memory. Just how bad it was. Just how bad it was. And the sense that it was just all spiraling out of control. Listen now to Trump lay out the devastating facts. This was the economy that he inherited from Joey. Roll cut 5A, Mike.
Let's look at the facts. Under the Biden administration, car prices rose 22% and in many states 30% or more. Gasoline rose 30 to 50%. Hotel rates rose 37%. Airfares rose 31%. Now under our leadership, they are all coming down and coming down fast. Democrat politicians also sent the cost of groceries soaring, but we are solving that too. The price of a Thanksgiving turkey was down 33% compared to the Biden last year. The price of eggs is down 82% since March, and everything else is falling rapidly. And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress. Nobody can believe what's going on.
So, look, I can just speak for myself, all right? I go at the pump. There's no question. Gas prices are lower. I mean, they just are. Gas prices are lower. My grocery, again, I wish I was paying less. There's no question. But, grocery prices are coming down. I'm just overall inflation, you can see it's really beginning to cool. Under Biden, it was, it depended on what you were buying, but you were looking at inflation of 9, 10, 11, 12, double-digit inflation, 15%. Trump has it down to under 3%. In other words, he stopped inflation. Inflation has been stopped. Now, he then went on to say, just in terms of your take-home pay, real wages, okay, this is your money after taxes, after inflation. He goes, under Joe Biden, the middle working class got destroyed. Under my leadership, you're getting now more take-home pay, real wages, especially if you work in the private sector. I don't care. Construction, you work in a factory, you work in a coal mine, anywhere in the private sector, your take-home pay is going up. Your real wages after taxes and inflation are going up. And the best is yet to come. Roll cut 5B, Mike.
Here are just some of the efforts that we have underway. You will see in your wallets and bank accounts in the new year. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace. Under Biden, real wages plummeted by $3,000. Under Trump, the typical factory worker has seen a wage increase of $1,300. For construction workers, it's $1,800. For miners, we're bringing back clean, beautiful coal. It's $3,300. And for the first time in years, wages are rising much faster than inflation. Remember that.
That's the key. That's the key. If the wages keep going up, and they will, and I'm going to explain this when I come back from the break, if wages continue to go up and it continues to outpace inflation, well, that's how you restore and rebuild the middle class. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me put my cards on the table, my friends. I think this was one of the most important speeches that Trump has ever delivered in his political career. I think there's no question. It was an incredibly powerful speech. As you can tell by the clips, it was a no-nonsense speech. It wasn't one of his campaign rally speeches. He wasn't taking pot shots at his political opponents. He, wasn't having a little bit of fun with the crowd or anything. It was all business. And what he did on many levels is he now has really reset the debate. In fact, he destroyed the entire narrative, the lies being peddled by the media. No, we have an inflation problem. We inherited from Biden. Don't try to pass it off on me. You want to call it quote-unquote affordability, call it whatever you want. This was all created by Joe Biden and his reckless spending and his reckless policies. All I'm doing now is fixing his mess, his disaster. That's all I'm doing. Now, what he clearly laid out is that he's put the pieces together now for rebuilding the American economy and really centering it on the private sector, on the middle and working class. And so what he said yesterday, in a nutshell, I'll give you Trumponomics. We're going to make energy low, the price of energy low. We're going to be energy dominant. We're drilling oil, natural gas. We're developing clean coal. This is going to drive energy costs down. Gas prices are going way down. They're at $3 a gallon nationally. He says give this another 6 more months, because you look at the trend line, it's going to be at about $2 a gallon nationally. So you're going to have low energy gas prices. That's going to lower inflation across the entire economy. Then you have the massive tax cuts that he signed in the one big beautiful bill. That is only going to kick in next year. That's in 2026. So you're going to get the largest tax cut in American history. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. As he said in part of his speech, wait until the spring. You're going to get the largest tax refund check maybe in the history of the United States. So as he put it, we're going to be saving you in total $11,000 to $20,000 a year per family. That's going to be real money, real savings in your pocket. Furthermore, because of the tariffs, and I'm telling you, I am a big tariff person. I am an economic nationalist. I always have been, all the way back to George Washington. Washington was pro-tariff, and I could go on and on. Successive presidents have always said, use a tariff. Better to use a tariff than to use an income tax. And I completely agree. But let that go. His tariffs have done now 2 things. He has now sold trillions of dollars of American products to countries all over the world. So we're going to be selling a lot more, making a lot more, and we're reshoring trillions and trillions. In fact, it's about $20 trillion in investment, which means plants are being built, factories are being built, manufacturing is coming back. We're set for one of the greatest booms in the history of the United States. And as he told the country last night, I need a Federal Reserve chairman that isn't trying to choke and strangle the economy. I need someone, and I'm going to put this person in by the early next year, who's going to cut mortgage rates and interest rates. So you can afford to borrow money, you can afford to buy a home, developers will want to build homes. So it's all going to come together at the right time. Listen now to President Trump. Roll cut 6, Mike.
I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us, but not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs, and that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen, AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it.
Amen, brother. Amen. One of the big changes, and he addressed it last night, and I thought he was 1,000, not 100, 1,000% correct. Biden was killing the auto industry. There's no question. He was killing the auto industry. He was forcing them to make these electric vehicles, these EVs, that nobody wanted to buy. They were making cars that people didn't want. And they were trying to force people to buy cars we didn't want. And the car companies to make cars they didn't want to make because there was no real market for these EVs and these electric vehicles. All in the name of quote-unquote climate change. All in the name of quote-unquote green energy. Trump has said over the last 11 months, I saved the American car industry. What I said was, Build the cars that your customers want. They want the internal combustion engine. Give it to them. They want gas-powered cars. Give it to them. And now cars are flying off. I mean, they're just flying off the factories. People now are they're buying cars, they're making cars, gas-powered cars. Also, when you lower the cost of gas, it's much more affordable to drive around in a gas-powered car. So he has rescued the American auto industry and saved millions of good-paying jobs. Now, furthermore, listen to him saying, I want the tax cuts now are going to kick in. And people have no idea how much, A, it's going to generate in economic growth, how it's going to lead to a booming economy, but how much money you're going to have extra in your pocket. Roll cut 6A, Mike.
1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail, totally failed. Now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that's said by every single leader that I've spoken to over the last 5 months. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's hallelujah. It's about time. We don't have an economy anymore that we had under Biden and the Democrats, which was Obama's economy, that is there to benefit welfare deadbeats, illegal aliens, and powerful corporate Wall Street, Hollywood, big banks, hedge fund, special interests, the globalists. Under Trump, he has shattered that model. And now what he's told the country is, now it takes time. As he said, Rome wasn't built in a day, okay, as the famous saying goes. But we're going to build a middle working class economy that puts the taxpayer and productive citizens first. First. Now, he announced two things, and I want to mention them because I want to take calls on the other side. He wants to give a $2,000 refund check from the tariffs to working middle-class families. A $2,000 check. Okay? A check to you, a check to me, to my family, to your family. $2,000. I don't know about you, but I would like I could use a nice $2,000 check. Okay? Pay the groceries, energy bills, whatever. Put it in the bank. And he announced yesterday, because next year is going to be the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence of 1776, obviously, a warrior dividend. Okay, let me just play. Forgive me, I want to go to the phone lines, but just let me play one last cut. So one of the new proposals that came out of yesterday's speech, one was not so new. He's been talking about it now for a couple months, was the $2,000 refund check for every working middle-class family that he wants to give from the tariffs, which I'm completely for. But he announced something else, a little extra bonus. And that was for our wonderful members in the military. 1.4 million of them are warriors. Next year, 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, of our Declaration of Independence. And so he's announcing now a warrior dividend of $1,776. This is going to be a check that is going to go to every military member. They are going to send this amount to everyone who serves in honor of their sacrifice, in honor of their service, and of course in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. And these checks, he says, will arrive just in time for Christmas. Roll cut 7, Mike.
Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend. In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way.
The check's in the mail. Okay, do you like this idea? Do you support this idea? Already the left, Democrats are poo-pooing it, saying it's a gimmick. What's $1,776? He's trying to buy votes of the military, blah, 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 blah. Look, I can tell you this. I got text after text from service members. Many of them listen to the show, love this show. They go, you know, to these rich Democrat fat cats, yeah, maybe they can scoff at $1,776. Let's just round it off, $1,800. You know, when you're struggling and you're living check to check and you're living hand to mouth, as many members in our military do, believe me, an $1,800 check, especially at Christmas time, pay for some gifts, maybe put a little money in the bank, I don't know, maybe go out and buy some extra groceries, maybe pay some bills. It helps. Let me put it to you this way. So is it better for them not to have $1,776? It's better for them to have no refund whatsoever, no dividend check whatsoever? If someone said to you, hey, would you rather get an $1,800 check from the government, a dividend check for your service to our country, a little bonus, or to get zero? Would you turn down the $1,800? I wouldn't turn down the $1,800. Now, maybe for Pelosi, maybe for Kamala, maybe for the Clintons, maybe for the Obamas, maybe for the Bidens, maybe this is tipping money. I get it. But not everybody's a politician and not everybody's a crook. So, to me, I like the gesture. I think they deserve it. I wish they could get more, but something is better than nothing. That's me. Now, I want to ask you, let's set the table. Did you watch Trump's speech? Question number one. What was your reaction? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you make of him trying to reframe the issue and the debate over his first year in office, especially on the affordability issue? Did he shatter the Democrat media narrative? Or do you think the Democrats are still going to run on so-called affordability next year? And did Trump's speech sway you or persuade you that the trend lines are going up, they're looking good, he's made some inroads, and more and the best is yet to come? Or do you think it was all smoke and no fire? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. Over the last 11 months, culminating now to today, under Trump, has your personal economic standard of living, your personal economic life, has it gotten better or worse? And are you happy with Trump's stewardship of the economy? 617-266-6868. Okay, I want to read to you an email. And you can email the Kuhner man, Jeffrey Kuhner, all one word, Kuhner, at iHeartMedia.com. And it's from Michael. Won't mention Michael's last name. But he's been listening to the show, I know, for many years because he's been emailing me for many, many years. He is a conservative. He is a Trump supporter. He's a staunch Republican. He's one of us. Okay? He's a member of Kuhner Country, diehard member of Kuhner Country. So when I got this email from him this morning, after my opening monologue, while we were off air, I always check my emails and I check the text messages. And anyway, and I saw other text messages saying similar things to what Michael was saying. I said, to be fair, and I always want to be fair to this incredible audience, I need to read this because it's different from my take. It's radically different from my take, and he has the right to have a different take than mine. And I think it needs to be heard, and for all of you to tell me if you agree or disagree with it. So here is what Michael wrote, and very respectfully and honestly very well written. Jeff, I love you like a brother in a non-sexual way. Oh, well, thank you, Michael. But I do not know what planet you are living on. I make a decent salary in the mid 100K range. So basically, I'd say about 150,000 a year. My family is barely scraping by. Car insurance jumped 40% this year. Wow. I just got my homeowner's insurance renewal. It's going up 33%. My employer-provided health insurance at work is going up 25% in January, and the copays and deductibles are soaring. So in other words, his car insurance is way up, his homeowner's insurance way up, his healthcare costs way up. He continues, housing isn't coming down, not with taxes and insurance rising at the rate they are. At best, it is staying the same. I go to Big Y. By the way, so do I, Michael, but let that go. I go to Big Y. By the way, it's a grocery store, a chain, for those of you listening in other parts of the country. I go to Big Y, and I walk out with a single plastic bag of groceries, and it's $100 plus bill. My raise for this year, 2.5%. Did I get a quote-unquote raise this year? Hell no. Sure, gas is down. I can't afford to drive anywhere except to work anyway. So what's the difference? Eggs are down. So what? I can't eat them or my cholesterol will go through the roof and I'll end up with a $10,000 hospital bill for my deductible when I have to pay, I have to have stents put into my arteries. The political party in power always, quote unquote, cooks the books when it comes to job reports and inflation reports. People out there aren't falling for it. We know what the real inflation rate is because we have to try to pay the bills each month. The Republicans are tone deaf. Trump is more interested in foreign affairs in an attempt to win the Nobel Peace Prize. He is completely out of touch. The Republicans are going to get decimated in the midterms. It is too little, too late. That speech should have been given on January 21st, 2025, i.e. over 11 months ago. I've been a Republican my whole voting life. My friends are all Republicans. And we all say the same thing. So, Michael, powerfully, eloquently, personally, is saying, my life under Trump hasn't gotten better. My home insurance, up. My car insurance, up. My health care costs, up. I go to the grocery store, I buy one bag, it's over $100. Yes, some things are better, but it doesn't make much of an impact in my life. Yeah, gas is down, eggs are down, but so what? On the bigger ticket items, I'm bleeding. And that he believes, and many like him do believe, his friends and others, I know because I get the emails and the texts all the time, that Trump has squandered too much of his 11 months in office chasing a Nobel Peace Prize, overly preoccupied with foreign affairs, and he is not focused on affordability issues and on the domestic economy enough. On the border, yes. On deportations, yes. On drugs and fentanyl, yes. But on bread and butter, economic cost of living issues, this is I'm hearing this criticism of many Trump supporters. They feel he has fallen down on the job or not delivered. Michael expressed that in his email to me. Do you agree with Michael? Do you disagree with Michael? 617-266-6868 is the number. I can tell you from my experience, and this is just my life, my family, life has gotten better under Trump. Not dramatically better, but better. And the key is the bleeding has stopped. It was infinitely worse under Biden. And I'm feeling more optimistic today than I was 11 months ago. But that's me. I want to hear from you. All right, let's unleash the hounds, as they say. Best audience in the business. Let's go to them. 617-266-6868. Dave in Western Pennsylvania, our constitutionalist correspondent out in the Pittsburgh area. Did you watch the speech, Dave? What did you make of it? Go, my friend.
Yes, I did, Jeff. I'm barely getting on at 7, but that's okay. Listen, Jeff, I think Trump hit the ball out of the park. That guy that just emailed you, I don't know what universe he's on, but he's out in the outer part of the Milky Way near the Uranus, the planet. But, Jeff, listen, he hit the ball out of the park. He could give the military maybe 2176. That would be better. But, who's counting? But you know what, Jeff? It's okay because you know what? Usually the Democrats give a response to these speeches, right? They were left dumb, null, and void, as they always are. And, Jeff, in what he needs to do, he needs to do more of these during this midterm election year. Come on like every 2 weeks and maybe twice a month to remind. Look, and he needs to say this, Jeff, because, there's a lot of dumb rhinos and middle-of-the-road conservatives out there. I'm Tea Party, Jeff. Okay, as a Jewish Christian, a Messianic Jew, that's my faith. Like we said last time, you're a Catholic. I respect that. But, Jeff, here's what it is. He needs to remind people, I may not be on the ballot, but act as if I'm on the ballot because that's going to help us keep the House and keep the Senate. Because remember, Jeff, in the midterms, usually the inside party loses, whoever has the presidency. And when Trump's name is on the ballot, Republicans, there's no red wave, Jeff. There needs to be a red wave, Jeff. Conservative wave, not a rhino wave, a conservative wave.
Well, Dave, I got to tell you, I'm so with you. Trump, when you were talking, I'm nodding my head up and down. Yes. He needs to do a lot more of these, the way FDR did his fireside chats. I loved the speech he gave yesterday. I thought it was a great speech. He finally is really communicating his message directly to the American people. I want more, and he needs to do more. That's the only way he can bust through that filter that the media has, where they just keep running him down, running the country down, running the economy down, always with doom and gloom. The sky is falling. So I agree with you. I'd like to see it once a week, every week. And if he can't, get the networks to carry him, do videos, do whatever you got to do. But keep getting that message out. Dave, I know you're a worker. You got to go into work. I want to ask you this question. In relation to Michael's email, and I don't want you to react to Michael. He says, look, Jeff, and he's just ticking stuff off. My car insurance, my health insurance, right down the line, my home insurance, when I go to the grocery store, everything. Inflation is killing me. Things are becoming too expensive. I'm drowning, man. And as he put it, I'm making about $150,000 a year, and I'm working my rear end off. In your life, for you and your family, is the economy getting better for you, the same, or worse over, let's say, the last 11 months?
It's getting better, Jeff, because obviously groceries are going down. And, Jeff, I don't mean to correct you, but I have to respectfully disagree. I think it's the big, beautiful bill is going to hit in the first quarter, end of March and April. The first quarter is obviously 3 times 4 for the liberals out there, because you think you know your math. It's 3 times 4, that a third, 3 months is a quarter, Democrats, 0.25, okay, 250,000 on a scale. But, Jeff, no, it's going to hit between March and April, right before tax day. And Trump needs to come out around April 15th and have one of these speeches and say, look, it's tax day. Democrats' favorite day. They love to tax the hell out of us. So, but that's all I got to say, Jeff. But Merry Christmas to you, to Mike, and everybody.
Merry Christmas. Dave, thank you again for your call and for your warm wishes. And Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Dave. So, look, you heard Dave. Dave says, yeah, maybe for Michael, but for me, my basic, for my basic living expenses, things are better for me under Trump. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Tom in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. How you doing, buddy?
Good. I love your accent, by the way. Love that accent. Keep going. Well, you could talk all day, and I'm just going to listen, Tom. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, I kind of call it disaster recovery. Crawling from the wreckage of the Biden administration, Biden-Obama administration. And, there you go right there. It goes back to energy. I'm an over-the-road truck driver. When things went really bad, I was sending pictures at the pump. $1,000 to fill up a truck. $1,000. That's just one fill-up for diesel.
Wow.
And I'm like, I told everybody, I sent pictures, it says, get ready to pay. And here we are. So I think Trump really needs to focus on our energy costs.
Tom, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but all right, so under Biden it was $1,000. What is it now?
It's dropped down considerably, hundreds of dollars now.
What would you say, ballpark, 800?
No, a lot less. It's
really?
Actually, diesel prices are still high, but it's gone down a lot.
Okay, 700. I feel like I'm bidding here. 700.
Yeah, probably. I was driving, I was driving a different truck, but they have different sized gas tanks.
But basically, roughly, you're saying it was 1,000 under Biden. It's basically now 700 under Trump. Give or take a few bucks, correct?
Yeah, because diesel was up over $5 a gallon, so... Yeah,
that's $300 a load. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. That's not peanuts. Am I wrong?
Sure. No, sir. And and things have like my car insurance is the same. And my homeowner's insurance didn't change. But yeah, food's still expensive. It's like the old saying. You gotta walk before you run. It's going to take a while, for this to come back around. We got hit hard. Let's face it.
Tom, I got to say, I think your analogy is brilliant. Really, it's like disaster relief. Like the disaster recovery. It's sort of like like a plane crash, and it's like Trump is like pulling people out of the plane. And okay, we're going to rebuild the plane now. You know what I mean? Like we're saving lives, we're rescuing people. Okay, now we're going to start rebuilding the plane. And I think that's pretty much that. If I was to summarize his speech, I think that was his speech. And he's basically saying, he's saying, give me 6 more months. He's really, basically what he said is, give me till the second quarter, the end of the second quarter. You're going to get the tax cuts kicking in. You're going to get your tax refund. I'm going to give everybody a $2,000 tariff refund check. You're going to see prices continue to go down. He's basically saying by about say June of next year, he says the economy is going to be clicking on all cylinders. So we'll see, fingers crossed. Tom, nice call. Merry Christmas and keep on trucking, my friend. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mary in Florida. Thanks for holding, Mary, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Listen, I'm so angry right now because Michaels and many, many other Republicans are sitting there and they're saying all of this should be fixed. He's been in office 11 months. I mean, give me a break. What are they expecting? He needs to lay the groundwork to get all of this charging again. That's what he's doing. And we as Republicans do exactly what our in our Congress and the Senate do. We spit on each other all the time. And nobody is giving this man the opportunity to try and lay the groundwork to get this whole thing working. Instead, we're just giving each other a difficult time about it. We're not sticking together. And I honestly believe Trump is doing exactly the right thing. Look at what's happening with all of these lawsuits.
Mary, can you do me a favor? I want to give you a chance to fully finish your point. So please hang on. I'm up against a break. I want to ask all of you, has the economy under Trump, in one of his most defiant, powerful, and important speeches of his entire political career, says that he is tackling the affordability crisis head on, that he and his administration have done historic things on the economy in the last 11 months, and there's a lot more to come. But his overall message, whether it's the tariffs, whether it's tax cuts, whether it's the low gas prices, energy dominance, they are obviously a very favorable attitude towards the private sector, focusing on rising wages for middle and working class folks out there. He has put the pieces together, the building blocks for an economic boom that he says will usher in a golden age. Did you watch his speech? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And on the issue of the economy and affordability, cost of living, over the last 11 months, how would you grade Trump? What grade would you give him? Is your life better under Trump than it was under Biden? Worse under Trump? The same? 617-266-6868. Let's go right back to Mary in Florida. She's telling other people who are not happy or dissatisfied with Trump over the last 11 months, hold your horses, take a breath, give this man a chance. He hasn't even been a year that he's been in office. He's working hard. He's putting the pieces together. These things take time. Mary, please pick up where you left off.
I mean, Jeff, you couldn't have said it better. In your lead-in to all of this, you're talking about the fact that he's laying the groundwork in what he's doing. And all I want is for Republicans to have a little bit of trust in him and give him the opportunity to fix this. It took Joe Biden 4 years to put our country in the situation that it's in right now. Give this man at least a year and a half to lay the groundwork. That's all I'm asking to do. And the other thing, honestly, around the midterms, we had no ground game. Even in Miami, people weren't coming out to vote. So Whatley gone and Lara Trump gone, we need to fix the ground game. In my opinion, that's what needs to happen. My life isn't better. I mean, I'm retired. My husband's retired. We moved to Florida from Massachusetts. It's tough right now, but I see what he's doing to get this economy moving. And I'm going to give him that year and a half. I'm going to give it to him. And I was a little upset with Grace the other day because I listened to you for the past 4 years, even longer. And I felt like she has this underlying hate for Trump. And it came through. Like, I just don't understand. Give this man a little bit of a break. Is he abrasive? Absolutely. But I think it's his abrasiveness that has got us into the situation where we're deporting immigrants, illegal immigrants, and we're getting this country back on track. That's
Mary.
it.
Oh, Mary, very well said. And thank you very much for that call. Look, let me just make an observation and take it for what it's worth. Mary lives in Florida, the Freedom State. The previous caller from Virginia, Tom, the truck driver, I don't know if he was calling from Virginia because he's on the road a lot, but, he had a southern accent, which I find very charming. So I assume either he lives in Virginia or one of the southern states. Now, I know Virginia's been trending blue, but they still have a lot of Republicans in the legislature. They had a recent Republican governor. So it's still a competitive two-party system. My point being, there are real checks and balances on Democrats. Okay? When someone like Michael writes his email, I really sympathize with him in this sense. Michael lives in Massachusetts, as I do, obviously, in a very deep, deep blue state. I mean, I'm just giving out the facts. The cost of living in blue states is a hell of a lot higher than it is in red states or even purple states. It's not even close. The cost of living in Illinois, sky high. State of New York, sky high. New Jersey, ay, ay, ay. You think what we pay in energy in Massachusetts is bad. You got to see what they're forking over in New Jersey. Their moonbats are even crazier than our moonbats. So what I'm saying is, in a way, I feel for Michael because I look at, places like, say, Florida or Texas or whatever. Everything there is just so much cheaper. But that's by virtue of being in a red state. So to me, there are many things that take energy. Yeah, Trump's going to try to drive down the cost of electricity. He spoke about it at length yesterday. He's going to build a lot more electricity generating plants. He wants to really wipe out all these green energy regulations. He's going to do everything possible to try to lower the cost of energy and what we pay our bills. But a lot of this is happening at the state level. And I'm telling you, living in Massachusetts as a taxpayer, you feel every day like there's a target on your back. Everything is expensive, more regulations, more taxes, more fees, more of my money being stolen. And so part of what I'm asking is this really something Trump could fix? Is this more of a state issue than a federal issue? I'm just throwing it out there. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, did you watch the speech last night? I'm just curious. And what did you make of Trump's speech? I thought it was a very powerful, commanding speech, a speech that is resetting the narrative, especially going into 2026. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Okay, before I go, lines are jammed. Before I go back to the phone lines, this is from Robert on Messenger. I'm getting a lot of texts, a lot of emails, siding with Michael, who I read his email on air. A lot of disagreement, but also a lot of agreement. So I want to be fair to everybody. They're all Trump supporters. They're all conservatives. They're all MAGA. So to me, we're all part of one big family. That's what Kuhner country is. Kuhner country to me is like my extended family. And so at the Kuhner man's table, like my family, everybody gets a say. We are a free speech zone. So with my Italian in-laws, just let it all out. Don't hold it back. Just let it all out. Okay. This is from Robert. Jeff, I agree with Michael 100%. At 74 and still working part-time. I'm sorry to hear that, Robert. I mean, it's great to work if you want to work, but if you're, working because you have to help pay the bills, I don't like that. I mean, that to me is not America. But anyway, let that go. At 74 and still working part-time, my expenses went up in Trump's first year, especially electricity and property taxes. Food is still way too high. Big ticket items are very expensive. Mine and my wife pay has not gone up. Costs to home repairs or upgrades are prohibitively expensive. The rate of increase may have slowed down, but not significantly. So for my family, there has been no meaningful decrease in expenses. Interesting. So basically the same. I mean, he was treading water 11 months ago, and Robert, 74 years old, who has to work part-time, is still treading water 11 months later. Interesting. Okay, this is from 781. Jeff, by the way, you can text the Kuhner Man 70470. Jeff, to address Michael, your brother, with all due respect to him, he does not understand the dynamics of inflation, time, and prices. The insidious part of inflation, and please listen to this, because this is 1000% accurate. The insidious part of inflation is that it's almost impossible to bring prices down appreciably once Biden level inflation happens. Inflation is not magic. It cannot be done and undone with a magician's tricks. It is a certain and predictable product of borrowing and printing money the nation does not have. And once that quote-unquote counterfeit currency is injected like drugs into the arm of the economy, terrible things happen. Prices rise because more billions of dollars are chasing fewer and fewer products. That drug-like money can't get sucked out of the economy any more than the fentanyl coursing in the veins. The exception is energy. If the nation can export its natural resources to international markets, that's why gas prices are coming down relatively quickly. The only practical and time-tested way to address inflation domestically, and that was Trump's argument last night essentially, is to grow the economy at a rate that outraces the rate of inflation. So over time, people have more actual wealth to spend. That's the only way it works. Don't blame Trump. This is Obama's and Biden's mess. I mean, the jargon is real wages, okay? That's the jargon. But essentially, he's right. Once you have that level of inflation we had under Biden, it stays. It's like tar. It just sticks to everything in the economy. It's very hard to wring out that kind of inflation. So the only way to really do it is to grow out of it, where you're making more money and more money and more money. And so after a while, you're making more than enough money to start covering the higher cost of everything. And by the way, that's how Reagan grew us out of the inflation of the 1970s. I mean, inflation was curbed. It was crushed. You know, we had inflation, 2% under Reagan. But it was double digits what he inherited. So you crush inflation. It doesn't keep going up. And then the economy booms and people are just making more money and making more money and more money and more take-home pay. And suddenly, the cost of a bottle of Coke didn't go down under Reagan. The cost of groceries didn't go down under Reagan. It stayed what it was under Carter. It just didn't go up anymore. But then people were just making more money and more money and more money, so everything becomes more affordable again. So that's why Trump is saying, we're going to crush inflation, and then I'm going to make sure that your take-home pay keeps going up. I'm going to give you more tax cuts. You're going to have more money in your pocket. You're going to keep more money in your pocket. And eventually, you're going to be able to start affording things again. But what Trump is saying is, not the way I'm phrasing it, but Rome wasn't built in a day. And he's basically saying, I need 18 months. I'm 11 months in. Give me 7 more months. And by June of next year, this economy will be roaring. Like, no like, agree, disagree. Eddie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
How are you?
I'm good, Eddie. How are you?
Oh, very good, thank you. Before I start, I want to wish you, your family, and the staff all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. All the best to you, Eddie. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family.
Thank you very much. I voted for President Trump 3 times. I'm hoping I can vote for him a 4th time. You can't blame him for everything. But I do get a little depressed when I hear about all these illegals making all this friggin' money. And my wife and I are both in our early 70s. We still have to work part-time to survive. But that has nothing to do with Trump. Well, it was our own financial problem. But let that go. And then you see these politicians. Everybody's walking out with millions. Now they're talking billions of dollars. How much do they expect President Trump to do? He can only do so much. He just can't, he just started in the office, really, only not even a year yet. And what he has done, I feel secure. I don't know about everybody else. I'll vote for him again without blinking an eye. What do you say, Jeff?
Eddie, look, I can only speak from my experience. I feel much more secure. I feel much more safe. He's stopped the invasion at the border. He's making the country energy dominant. He's going as aggressively as he can on these mass deportations. The fentanyl, the drugs, he has cut a lot of it off coming in. I could go on and on. I think he's had incredible accomplishments. I personally feel that my standard of living, my cost of living has gotten better. I'm just being honest with you, but that's me. Everybody has a different story. What I want to ask you is this, Eddie, and I think this is, look, the reason why I'm saying this, or I'm kind of harping on it, as a host of this great show, never in the last 10 years have I seen so many Trump supporters. I'm talking, like you, people who voted for him 3 times. They were with him through thick and thin. After January 6th, when he was in the political wilderness, he was their president. They stood by him. I've never heard the kind of criticism of him from MAGA and the listeners of this show than I have, I would say, over the last 3 or 4 months. And the argument is this, Eddie. They feel that he's focusing way too much on foreign affairs, and he hasn't focused enough on the economy and on affordability and bread and butter issues. That's their criticism. Do you agree or disagree? What say you?
Like I said, I back President Trump. I'll back him again. But I think we were expecting too much. We were expecting him to solve everything overnight. And it's not possible. It might take him the full 4 years to solve everything. But we just have to wait. We voted for the guy, and we got to have faith in the guy. That's the way I look at it. I mean, like I said, if he runs again, he's got my vote. I don't care what anybody says.
Eddie, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, President Trump delivers a very, very important speech last night. Even his own administration is saying it's a landmark speech. The themes he outlined yesterday, he wants the Republicans to run on and govern in 2026. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, President Trump addresses the nation, talks about the state of the country. He didn't just talk about the economy. He talked about prescription drugs, how he's got Trump RX coming in January to help lower prescription drug costs. He says that healthcare costs are going to come down. He's telling Republicans, he's ordering them, repeal and replace Obamacare. I will sign that bill. He also said they're going to push forth very aggressive housing reform to drive down the costs of housing and make it easier and more affordable for people to buy and own a home. Obviously, he talked about the border, his successes at sealing off the border, deportations, the threat of drugs and fentanyl, and how much success they've had in stopping that flow pouring into our nation. But much of the discussion last night, his speech, I would say the meat and potatoes, the core of it, was the economy. And the argument that he was making, and I do agree with him on. In fact, I agree with him 1,000%, is that the economy is improving, and it is clearly doing much better than under Biden. I think, to me, on that, there's no question. Inflation is down. Gas prices are lower. Employment is up. And the big tax cuts, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, don't even take effect until 2026 next year. So I'm feeling good and more optimistic about the future. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. And it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Was President Trump's address last night on the economy, in your view, was it an accurate picture of how the country's doing better and is only going to continue to do better? Or was it really just politics as usual? Like what Michael said in his email. Politicians of either party, they quote-unquote cook the books. They go out and say, oh, look at this jobs report, look at this inflation report, and you're just getting political spin. That, as Michael said, my life has not gotten better. It's been the same under Trump. Some things are lower, other things are higher. And in the end, I'm still struggling as a middle-class person. So I want to ask you, did you think his address was an accurate picture, A, or B, it was just politics as usual? A, accurate, B, politics. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuh, N as in national ER. You can also vote via X. And yes, I was active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuh, N as in national ER, at the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868. Lines are on fire. Janet in the great state of North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Janet, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you
Janet.
so much for what you do. Oh, my gosh. Every morning we're just so, I don't know if you come on at 5:59 or if you come on at 6:01 here in North Carolina, but we are always, every day. What I want to say, Jeff,
Thank you, Janet.
is you're so welcome. Oh, my gosh. Obama has worked very hard on transforming America he did it for 8 years, and his puppet, Biden, did it for 4 more. The greatest thing Trump has accomplished is to, so far, slow down Obama's goal, although he is still working to destroy the United States of America. That's all I have to say, and Merry Christmas, Jeff.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, Janet, and all the best to you and your family. I think Janet is right. Obama and Biden, and really, let's be honest, Biden's presidency was Obama's 3rd term. The real puppet master was the dear leader. Okay, Biden was just a pathetic front man. Okay, the demented, really the fool, the buffoon. And he was just the front guy. He was the puppet. And Obama had 3 terms, and that's what it was. 3 terms of the deliberate destruction of the United States of America. And it's very easy to destroy. It is very hard to rebuild. And if you look at the last 11 months, just objectively, kind of like a year in review, Really, what did Trump do? He's just been undoing Obama's mess. Cleaning up Obama's mess. He's reversing everything Obama has done. In a way, this is not a criticism. You have no choice, but he's not really offense. He's playing defense. In the sense that he's trying to undo the damage of his predecessor. It's not like he came in, you pass the baton, you inherit something, and you got peace and prosperity, and you can build upon that. No, he's got to rebuild from the ground floor. I mean, Obama blew it's like he took the foundations of a house and he blew it up in the name of fundamentally transforming the United States, quote unquote. He destroyed the border. He flooded our country with 20 million illegals. As Trump rightly pointed out yesterday, he goes, you allow 20 to 25 million illegals, and then you give them money, checks, so they can go and live in hotels and motels and get rental apartments and live in homes. What do you think that's going to do to the rental market? It's going to send rents soaring. What do you think that's going to do to inflation? You just imported 20 million people and handed out checks like candy, printing money. It's all debt. Of course inflation is going to skyrocket. Of course everything's going to go through the roof. Of course crime is going to explode. Of course drugs are going to explode. So, as Trump said, look, I inherited a massive hole. I'm just digging out and digging out and digging out and digging out. I'm just trying to remind all of you how bad it was, the mess that I inherited. So he listed how much hotels cost skyrocketed under Biden, how much housing skyrocketed under Biden, how much gas, $5 a gallon. $5 a gallon. How much food went up, how much energy went up. Everything. And how take-home pay, real wages, kept going down and down and down. He was crushing and destroying the middle class on purpose. Never mind what he did abroad. Obama basically gave Iran a nuclear weapon on a silver platter. They had a nuclear weapons program. They were on the verge of a breakout. The debacle in Afghanistan. And then they resettled all of these Islamic migrants, so-called refugees. We now find out many of them terrorists in our country. So Trump is saying, look, we're cutting off fentanyl. We're deporting people as fast as we can in the face of massive resistance. I've stopped the invasion. I'll play the cut where he says, remember, Biden and the media said you couldn't stop the invasion at the border. You needed legislation. No, you just needed a president who had the will. He goes, I'm giving you the biggest tax cut in history. It can only kick in next year. I just got elected this year. So when you pass something, it's for next year. We're operating on last year's budget. So Trump is basically saying, please, just give me some time. I'm working my rear end off. But he goes, please remember where we were and look at where we are now. And look, this is one of the great strengths. But, the Irish have a great saying. Every great strength is a weakness. Every weakness is a strength. If you're big and strong, you tend to be slow and cumbersome, right? If you're small, well, you're not maybe as strong, but you're very quick and nimble and flexible. So one of the great strengths of the American people, our character, our national character, we're a very efficient people because we're an impatient people. We want things now. So we love to innovate. We're very dynamic. We have a consumer need or a desire. Let's fill it. Come on, now. Let's go. But that also makes us extremely impatient. And that's what we don't have, that virtue of patience. That's one of the things we don't have. But that's because we're an innovative, dynamic people with very high expectations. So it's both a curse and a blessing, right? That's every strength is a weakness. Every weakness is a strength. So I think a lot of it is Trump is not a miracle worker. And look, I'm sorry. He inherited a much bigger mess in 2021 than he did in 2017. Well, you're going to say, but Jeff, there were 2 terms of Obama. Yeah, but he had to be careful. I mean, he did a lot of damage, don't get me wrong, but he still had to be careful. Under Biden, it was like Obama on steroids. And remember, Obama lost the House. He lost the House in his first term. And then he lost the Senate in his second term. So what I'm saying is, yeah, he did tremendous damage, but the Republicans were able to block a lot of Obama in his first 2 terms. Under Biden, they had almost, no opposition whatsoever, at least for the first 2 years. And even then, the Republicans had a very small majority in the House and a weak, feckless majority. So they had a lot more runway to destroy our country. And that's when Obama really went to town. So, look, I said this to my wife over and over, and she can testify to this. When Trump won on election night, I cried. I got the news. I was sleeping in bed. It was about maybe, 2:30 in the morning. I can't remember now. But when they called it for him officially over Kamala. And I cried. I literally cried. And I asked her to lie down beside me and we prayed. I said, please, let's pray to God. I want to thank him because I believe he saved our country. And I'm never going to forget that. We were staring down the barrel of communism. We were staring down the barrel, I believe, of the end of the United States of America. We would never have survived a fourth Obama term. I can tell you what Kamala wanted to do. If you want, I can go through it step by step. This woman is crazy. There have been no coming back. Let's not forget that. And then the other thing, and she can testify to this, I said, it's going to take a generation to undo the damage of the Biden presidency. If we're lucky. A generation, that's 10 years. I'm not making that up. You know how hard it is to deport 20, 25 million illegals? Do you understand how hard that is? Do you know how hard it is to undo the kind of inflation that we had under Biden? The kind of massive economic damage? Do you know how hard it is to undo all of the Islamic terrorists that he allowed to pour into our country? This, just to use, let's say, Somalia. Look what they're doing in Minnesota, all brought in by Biden. Maine, all brought in by Biden. Now they're in North Dakota, for God's sake. They're in Fargo, North Dakota. They have a Somali Heritage Day. And I'm not picking on the Somalis. I can go community after community after community. 80 to 90% welfare rates. Leeches, parasites, mooching off the system. Many of them Islamists, Muslim fundamentalists. Elon, some people did something, Omar, who hate our country to its very core. These are fifth columnists that Biden deliberately allowed to come in. You don't just snap your fingers and it all goes away. So I'm not making excuses for Trump. I'm just saying, look, I don't want to repeat myself. It took Reagan 2.5 years. Only by the middle of 1983 did the economy really begin to turn around under Reagan. Reagan got slaughtered in the 82 midterms. And he passed his program very quickly, first 100 days. But it took about 2.5 years to undo the damage of the Carter years. So what I'm saying is, it takes time. Now, if we're, in June of next year, July, August, September, and it's still not working, well, then we have to do an assessment because something didn't go right. But you look, all I can tell you is this. Is inflation going down? Yes. Are gas prices going down? Yes. Are the costs of many things going down? Yes. Is employment and jobs, are they going up, especially for native-born Americans? Yes. Are real wages rising? Yes. Is investment pouring in? Yes. So I'm like, well, the trend lines are good. None of the trend lines are bad. In fact, even the deficit, $600 billion lower under Trump. $600 billion. Now, that's a $2 trillion deficit that he got from Biden. But still, in other words, are deficits coming down? Yes. Now, it's a trend. I want it to be a wave. But the trend lines are good. So let's just keep going. So that's why, if you want my honest opinion, I'm like, no, I'm optimistic. I think he's got the secret sauce. And mama is cooking in the kitchen, or grandma's cooking in the kitchen. And next year, we're going to eat. 617-266-6868, and we're going to eat good. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome. CJ, did we lose you? No, CJ, are you there? Going once? Going twice? Brian in Billerica. Thanks for holding, Brian, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning and Merry Christmas, my friend.
Merry Christmas, Brian. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the call. Look, Rome was not built in a day, for sure, right? But, Jeff, I voted for a guy who told me he could build Rome in a day. And now I'm hearing, give me 18 months. Give me 2 years. Things have not gotten any better for me. They've gotten slightly worse, I would say, only because this past year was the first time my boss told me they could not afford a pay raise. I also have an adult son that is self-employed, so he gets his health insurance through the exchange. He takes the monthly tax credit. He's looking at a pay cut of about $500 to $600 a month if he loses that tax credit. And because he's a single parent, I'm going to have to step in and help him out, which is going to hurt me even more. My biggest problem with President Trump is not that prices aren't coming down as quickly, is that he made us a promise, and he made us a lot of other promises, too, that he hasn't been able to keep. So it makes me doubt anything that he says right now. It makes me doubt if things are really going to get better in 18 months for me, or 2 years, or if ever again.
Brian, if you don't mind me asking, and again, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. I won't get offended. You said there were certain promises that he made that he hasn't delivered on. Do you mind expounding on that? What specific promises do you feel he betrayed and that has impacted or bothered you? Please, go ahead, Brian.
Lowering prices on day one. If I heard that once, I heard it 1,000 times. Other stuff is not as significant to me. But, the Epstein file, he made a promise to do it, and then he ran away from it, which makes me doubt his motivations on that. The war in Ukraine, that was another solution for it. Again, those issues aren't as important to me as the economic issues, but it's getting to a point now where I just doubt anything that the guy says.
Brian, you kind of broke up on us just a little bit, so I just want to recap it. I understand you're saying economics is number one for you. Of course, it's your livelihood. It's your, how you feed your family. But you're saying, look, he said he was going to cut us loose from the Ukraine war. He hasn't. He was going to stop all aid. He hasn't. That he was going to release the Epstein files, and he fought it tooth and nail. So you feel that he's lied on those two fronts. Okay, listen now to President Trump. He addressed the nation last night. Growing economic anxiety among many, that cost of living is still just too high. And Republicans now are down in the polls. Democrats have now won multiple special elections, and the fear is now it could be a bloodbath next year in the November midterms. Trump is now telling the country, I am fixing what Biden had destroyed, piece by piece by piece. And now wait till the big, beautiful bill kicks in next year. You're going to have more money in your pocket, and you're going to be able to spend more, and the prices of everything are going to go down. It takes time, but we're getting there. Roll cut 6A, Mike.
1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail, totally failed. Now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that's said by every single leader that I've spoken to over the last 5 months. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time.
Bring it on, baby. Bring on that big mother tax refund. I'm waiting. I can't wait. 617-266-6868. Jim in Boston. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing? I know this might bother some people, but boo freaking who? Listen, we sound like a bunch of liberal socialists. This country, what made this country great, and what Trump's trying to do is we need to work harder, we need to work smarter. Our parents worked 3, 4, whatever damn jobs. They didn't complain. They didn't ask for these corrupt Democrat programs like Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment. Again, I don't probably bother a lot of people, but I'm sick of it. Everyone's like, help me, help me. It's this lazy mindset. You know, what happened to it's not what your country could do for you, it's what you could do for your country. You know, our president is an example of that. He works hard, he works strong. This man never sleeps. He literally never sleeps. Follow his example. Stop following the liberals and saying, oh, we need this, we need that. I can't afford it. Well, guess what? If you can't afford it, you move. That's what happens. Nothing's guaranteed. I'm sorry, you're not guaranteed college. You're not guaranteed a car. Get a bike. Sorry, I know that sounds harsh, but you work hard, you work smart. I started from the ground up. I didn't come from money, and I did very well. You know, I did what I had to do, and I did well for my children. And everyone can do that. I'm sick of these complaints and this weakness. You know, this is why other countries are getting ahead of us, whether it's China or name your country at this point. I mean, it's just this mindset of like, help me, oh, just help yourself. Help yourself, I'm sorry. And I know it comes harsh, but people do it, and people do it all the time.
Jim, let me ask you, for you and your family, the last 11 months, how would you grade Trump just on the economy? Has your life improved? Has your standard of living improved? Are things cheaper? Is your cost of living going down? In other words, how would you rate him just on the economy and on the issue of affordability?
Great. I mean, the taxes are coming. It's literally not even been a year yet. So the tax cut's coming. I think that's going to be fantastic. Gas prices have gone down a little bit, which is wonderful. You know, there was a sky high with a $5+ a gallon for gas.
Oh yeah.
You know, I run a business that relies a lot on that. Yeah, and so yeah. I mean, is it this dramatic effect? But we don't need that. Like I said, I'm not looking for this government keeps handing everything out. I'm looking for people to start, grab the bootstraps and get to work. But yeah, I do think it's definitely been an improvement, and it's only going to get better.
Jim, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Well, no, look, Trump was adamant on this point that he wants to take us away from the socialist welfare state model that was being pushed hard by Obama and Biden, and to liberate people from being on welfare. And, he said that explicitly. I want to cut government. I want to have more people in the private sector. I want everybody to have a job. I want them to be able to achieve the American dream. He also said he wants a country now that really values hard work, entrepreneurship, a new technology, really make America now the most competitive, prosperous, business-friendly country in the entire world. And he says that's why he's cutting all these trade deals. That's why he's bringing in all this foreign investment. That's why he wants to sell as many of our products to countries all over the world. He wants an economic renaissance. And he says entrepreneurship and the private sector.
Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs created since I took office have been in the private sector. Think of that. 100% of all jobs have been in the private sector rather than government, which is the only way to make a country powerful and great. This historic trend will continue.
That's just a little bit from Trump's speech yesterday. Again, my assessment to me, and I'm more convinced of it now than even 2.5 hours ago when I delivered my opening monologue. I thought it was a very powerful speech, a very high energy speech, a very strong speech, and clearly a very important speech. He is now setting the tone for what he expects next year. And he is taking on the Democrat media narrative that somehow he's to blame for the affordability crisis and that Trumponomics has failed. Trump is saying it's the exact opposite. Who created all this inflation? Biden and the Democrats. Who's fixing it? Me and my policies. And they are starting to work. Agree, disagree. 8:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. Let's go back to our phone lines. Tanya in Boston. Thanks for holding, Tanya, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Tanya.
So I want to make a comment because I think you brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and here we are again with the Republicans, a handful of them, not being confident. And the first thing I want to say to these Republicans that have this issue, they really need to watch the documentary of The Truth About Communists, narrated by Ronald Reagan in 1962. And it's on YouTube and it's free. Because after they watch that, they'll understand exactly where we were headed. Because it talks about Lenin, it talks about Stalin, it talks about Marx, and it talks about how they made all these promises to the civilians. Meanwhile, they're doing all these backdoor deals with other countries trying to promote peace and all this crap. It was all just garbage. But then when their leaders, their people, didn't agree with Stalin didn't agree with him, he had them killed. So what is happening here now? We've got Democrats that are, and we're assuming, but that seems to be the similar thing. We've got Republicans just suddenly killed. By who? Most of them were a Democrat or someone that was an anti-Trumper. And then if you go back to Stalin and we talk about, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. We go back to Stalin and he talks about how he's going to make all these promises, and he talks about how he's going to do all this stuff. Next thing you know, Russia, and they're all killing off the Poles. It wasn't as bad as the Holocaust, and they do compare the two. But Stalin and Hitler are kind of one and the same, except Hitler was much worse because he was starving those Jews. The Poles just got shot, killed, and put in a grave. But regardless, I mean,
well, no,
that's
Tanya,
exact-
look, you put your finger right on it. I mean, Stalin was one of the great mass murderers, one of the most horrific mass murderers of the 20th century. He's up there with Hitler. There's no question, along with Mao, along with Lenin. This is what the left does. And I think people are forgetting now. In November 2024, we dodged, as a nation and as a people, we dodged a bullet. There's no other way. A communist bullet. That's what we dodged. And I hope we never forget that. And the Democrat Party hasn't changed. It is now, for all intents and purposes, a communist party. You can call it social democratic, democratic socialism, far left progressive, you can put whatever term you want on it. It's fundamentally now a Marxist communist party. And look, this is what Kamala Harris vowed to do. These was her explicit campaign promises, that she was going to continue to keep the border wide open. So we were going to get another 20 to 30 million illegals pouring in. That all the illegals were going to be given amnesty. Amnestio. Which means not just that they would all become automatically American citizens and be legalized and be able to vote, which would guarantee a Democrat one-party regime for 100 years. But then they could all legally be on welfare. This alone would have financially bankrupted the United States, but she wasn't finished. The Green New Deal, check. Socialized medicine, check. A $25 an hour across the country national minimum wage, she would have wrecked the economy. She talked about, it was in her platform, the collectivization of agriculture. You speaking of Stalin, that's what Stalin did in Ukraine. And it starved to death 5 to 7 million Ukrainians and led to a chronic massive famine. By the way, Lenin did it as well. It led to a famine. Mao did it. It led to a famine. Castro did it. It led to a famine. Chavez and Maduro have done it in Venezuela. It led to a famine. Pol Pot in Cambodia. It led to a famine. Or mass hunger or mass starvation. When I saw that proposal that she put out saying she wants to collectivize agriculture, I said, this woman is bat, you know what, I can't say it, bat crap crazy. The one thing you don't do is you don't play with the food supply. Like, do you understand? Like, you want to do your stupid DEI initiatives. I think they're horrible. I think they're very bad. But okay, we can survive. But when you start playing around with food, when you start even talking about, quote, collectivizing agriculture, you are insane. Okay? You're satanic. You have no business going. By the way, South Africa now is toying with that idea. Zimbabwe did it. They threw out the white farmers and they tried to collectivize. It led to mass famine and hunger. So I think people, like everybody, that's all calm down a little bit. Believe me, it could always be so much worse. And we were right there. Now, look, I want Trump to achieve his goals. I'm not going to give him a pass if he doesn't deliver. But give the guy a break. I mean, I'm pleading with people almost like, come on, give him some time. I mean, look, is he not working his rear end off? I mean, just that alone. How many vacations did Biden take? The guy was lucky if he worked 2 days a week. Trump is working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Literally 20 hours a day. His staff, you want to know the biggest complaint? They go, he's going to drive himself to a heart attack. And you look at him lately. He does look tired. He looks tired. He looks a bit exhausted. He's got so much on his plate. So, is he not working his rear end off? You better believe it. Is he not putting out fire after fire? You better believe it. All this guy does is deal with problems. and he's got no help from congressional Republicans. He's always being stabbed in the back, even by his own. I don't want to get into it. Look what Susie Wiles did to him as chief of staff. She runs to Vanity Fair and gives them 11 interviews over 11 months. Vanity Fair? One of the most rabid anti-Trump outlets? And then she cuts him down by saying he's got an alcoholic's personality, Trump, a guy who never touched a drop of alcohol in his life. She then badmouths J.D. Vance and says, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist and just a shameless political opportunist. She makes fun of Russell Vogt, the Office of Management Director, who's trying to cut a lot of fat, waste, and fraud, and says he's a quote-unquote right-wing zealot. I could go on. She insulted Rubio. I mean, just one after another, after another, after another. And then she comes out and says, it was a hit piece. It was disingenuous. And I'm thinking, what did you expect? Even if I accept your story, which I don't, by the way, I think she's a snake, and I think she's been leaking against Trump, and I think she showed her true colors. But let that go. Say I'm wrong, okay? Just for the sake of argument. This is my question to her. What the hell were you thinking giving an interview to Vanity Fair? Unfettered access to your office? Unfettered access to my administration? For 11 months behind my back? To one of the most anti-Trump outlets there is? I mean, there's them and there's the New York Times. You don't get more vile than that. You think they were going to give you a fair shake? No. You wanted that glossy cover. That's what you wanted. You wanted to be on the cover of Vanity Fair. And to have pictures of you inside with your, $500 sunglasses, and she wears this dress, and she wears that outfit. That's what you wanted. And they wanted dirt. And so you gave it to them. Okay, very quick reset. I want to ask all of you, did you watch Trump's address to the nation last night? And what did you make of it? What did you make of it as a speech? Did it persuade you? Did it move you? Did it leave you cold? He says he's been tackling the affordability crisis. He says he inherited it from Biden. He's doing everything he can. Things are turning around, and it's only going to get better. And by next year, everything will be clicking. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. And let me ask you the question I've been asking all morning. It's now been 11 months. It's the year in review. Economically, your standard of living, cost of living for you and your family, has it gotten better or worse under Trump? Is it better than it was under Biden? Is it the same? Or is it actually even a little bit worse? 617-266-6868. Personally, I think the economy is clearly improving and much better than it was under Joey. But that's me. Jack in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Jack, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff, and welcome to the land of immediate gratification, right? Push the keyboard, get a box. And I think that's what's happening. And in theory, some of your callers that are taking exception to his approach here, I'm going to say they were probably born after 1990. So it was probably a good 15, 20 years before they became actually, say, economically conscious. They had to actually pay bills. I'm 68 years old, right? And we've been around a long time to see economic upturns and downturns. We had a stock market crash in 87, et cetera, right? So we have to just, I don't think anyone's ever heard of, you don't hear belt tightening anymore, do you? You don't hear cutting coupons anymore, right? On the home front. But I've got some data or some stats that usually sends the moonbats flying. And this is what Trump is dealing with. The Inflation Reduction Act will end up forcing working class Americans to pay billions of dollars in new taxes, according to the nonpartisan CBO. Number one. we moved down in 2023. Business bankruptcies surged 58%. How do you recover from that? Not overnight. The federal government ran a $900 some odd trillion deficit in his first 7 months. I'm talking about Joe. The U.S. employment records, you remember his reports, they were overstated by 500,000 jobs in 23. Right? Inflation Reduction Act ended up forcing working class Americans to pay billions of dollars in new taxes, according to the CBL, as I said. So here's some of the impacts. Okay, Bidenomics, right? That he said he was working. Wisconsin, people were paying more than $10,000 a year more annually. Ohio, $10,000 more annually. Pennsylvania, almost $10,000 more annually. In Montana, $12,000 more. And Nevada, $12,000 more. Everything under him cost more. When he was supposed to stop the PPE loans, you remember the monies that were sent out? He didn't stop it. He flooded the market with so much cash that 80% of the cash that was in circulation during Joe Biden's term was printed during his term, which had a monumental impact on inflation. So anytime you present all the facts and the data to the people that just absolutely, with TDS, et cetera, they run the other way and start name calling. So I just wanted to just point these out that I have a long memory. I've lived through a lot of different presidents and different economies. This is not any different in many respects, and people just have to tighten their belts and just kind of forego immediate gratification for like maybe 6 months. And thank you for taking my call.
Jack, thank you. Merry Christmas, Jack. All the best to you and your family. Look, I'm not going to be here and stand on my high horse or sit on my high horse and say, Kuhner man's a big, belt tightener. Look, I don't know what's happened. It's not just the United States. It's Canada as well. In North America in general. Jack is right. We tend to want instant gratification. We're different than our parents. We're different than our grandparents. Look, I just compare my life to my parents. I have it much better than they ever had. I mean, I'm just being honest. My father, I work hard. I'm not saying I don't work hard. I work very hard. But, my father would often work 7 days a week. My father would go on these business trips for months and months and months on end. He never complained. My mother cut coupons. She did. My father would often say, no, we got to tighten our belts. No, we got to, my family, especially my kids, God bless my kids, but they are really typical American kids. Like, they want everything and they want it now. Of course we say no, but what I'm saying is, there's no sense of deferred gratification. They just, it's, come on, Daddy, you're going to buy me this toy for Christmas. That's all. There's nothing else to say. Why? Because all my friends have it. So what I'm saying is we're not accustomed anymore to sacrifice. I remember my professors, this was in the 90s when I was doing my PhD work. Professor Charles Alexander, brilliant man. He wrote a brilliant biography on Eisenhower and, anyway, on the 1930s. He also became a great baseball historian. Anyway, he's just a brilliant man. And, out of the blue, he just said this. We were in one of his classes, and he said, look, I'm going to be honest with all of you. And he didn't mean it as a criticism of us. He just said in general. He goes, look, he was like in the 60s then. He goes, we could never go through the 1930s or World War II ever again as a culture, as a society. He goes, people had to ration food. And during World War II, they had ration cards. No one's going to ration now. He said, they had ration even rubber, meaning for tires for cars. So a lot of people couldn't drive cars because they couldn't get access to the tires. He goes, no, now it'll all be on the black market. In other words, nobody can sacrifice for the country anymore, the way, as a society, the way he goes, we did even 60, 70 years ago. Now, gotta have it now. Everything's gotta be now. He said, even the way we eat. Look at the way we eat. We all go to fast food restaurants. Not everybody, but, his point is, look how Americans have become addicted to fast food. I'm addicted to fast food. Just to give you, I'm not preaching. I'm stating the truth. My mother, my father, they never went to McDonald's. The idea of fast food was repulsive to them. Food should not be fast. Food is you gotta get healthy food. You gotta make the food. You gotta cook the food. To have good food, it takes time. So the notion of taking your car, drive through, I'll have a Big Mac, actually in my case, 2 Big Macs, if you want to know the truth, extra sauce, always extra sauce, by the way. Mwah! Large French fry, and because, I'm trying to watch my waistline a little bit, I'll go a large Diet Coke. My mother would always say, that's garbage. My father would say, that's garbage. Like you're putting garbage in your body. But just the principle. You mean what? The meal is made for you in 2 minutes? Like what? You can't go home, even though you're hungry, I don't know, grab an apple or have a banana, hold you over, and make your own meal? Or the rare, and it was rare, that you go out, you go to a place where you sit down. You order the food. It's a decent restaurant. You eat with a fork and a knife. You actually eat stuff that's edible. This fast, now, fast, go. Or again, my parents, they saved. What I mean by that is, if they bought a television, nothing on the payment plan. Nothing, I'll make monthly payments on it. Here's my credit card, or whatever, my debit card, or whatever. $100 a month, whatever, until I pay it off. Or $50 a month. No. My parents were, you save. Say the TV costs, I'm just giving you a number, $1,000. You get the 1,000, then you go to the store, and you buy the TV. And by the way, they were like, most people never had TVs. The fact that you can buy a TV and eventually own a TV, that was huge. That's a massive increase in your standard of living. Not today. Today, I don't have the money, but let's go get a flat screen TV. Yeah, just put it on the payment plan. Bang me up. Put some interest on it and bang me up every month. My parents my mother's first washer and dryer. I'll never forget it. My dad saved for 2 years. My mom said, I need a washer and dryer. She used to wash our clothes by hands, with her hands. It was hard work. And she said, look, Jack, his name was Jack. Jack, I need a washer and dryer, please. And he said, okay. And from his check, they took money every month, saved in a special account until they got the money for an actual washer and dryer. My mother practically cried when they brought it to our house and installed it. I remember I was a young boy. So this idea that you buy appliances and it's just, you pay it off in 5 years. My parents would say, why? You're putting yourself in debt. You got payments up to your neck. You're choking on these payments. They're adding interest to it, so you're actually paying even more for it. Why do you have to have it now? Everything is now. I want a TV, get it now. I want appliance, whatever, a car, now. My parents were like, you want something, you save, you buy, and then when you have enough money, you buy. And my father and mother always said this, it's not really yours. I mean, once you pay it off, yes. They're like, the banks own everything, or your credit cards own everything. Like, you miss a couple payments, your car is repossessed. Your appliances are gone. Whatever you have is gone. So my father and mother always took pride in the fact that what we have, we earned, we own, it's ours, and it's all paid for. Now, if you got to wait, deferred gratification, you got to wait. And you're still, for them, you think their parents had TVs, washer and dryer, dishwashers. I mean, to them, they're like, this is incredible. This is it's like heaven. So you got to save up and wait, and, until you can earn enough and save enough to buy it. What's the problem? Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if my TV's paid off. I don't know. I mean, I'm just, I have appliances. It's on the payment plan. I don't wait. I'm being honest. My cars, I don't know how many years it's going to take for me to pay down my cars. I mean, it's just, I'm, a typical American in that way. So comparing myself to my parents, now, I want it now. It's just, I don't know. That's just how it is. And my children, God bless them, my 2 American adopted children, one from Minnesota, one from Utah, they're even worse. Because they're always on the computer, whatever, not always, but, they're on the computer, they're on a laptop, they're this, they're that. It's like press button. Everything is press button. So, and their expectations are also much higher. See, I think that's also what's changed. Like, I know compared to my parents, like stuff that I complain about, they would never complain about. My parents would often say, you guys have it very well. And I don't think you realize how well you have it. Like, don't complain. Believe me. You don't know what it was like to go through the Great Depression or World War II, or I remember, just very quick, it was the 2004 Republican convention in New York. Long story short, that was Bush's, he was running for a second term. And there was an Irish guy, we were in New York, I was there, and there was he was an American, but of Irish descent, but he immigrated from Ireland. And he came right after the Second World War. And he said Ireland was really poor back then. And he said, but even here in the United States, he was talking to me and a couple of other my colleagues from the Washington Times. And he said, he was driving us to the convention. He said, I grew up in New York in the 1950s. He goes, do you guys have any idea what life was like even in the 50s? He goes, we didn't have freezers, like to freeze your food. We had, they called them ice boxes, very small refrigerators. He goes, we used to have to buy blocks of ice, literally blocks of ice. And if you bought some meat or whatever, you would throw it on these blocks of ice, like packaged, to keep it cold and frozen. He goes, especially in the summertime, it was horrible. He goes, like, you take so many things for granted. Centralized air conditioning. We had no air conditioning in the 50s. He goes, you don't know what it was like June, July, August, dog days of summer in these tenement apartments in New York City. It was sweltering. You couldn't sleep at night. The windows are wide open. You can hear every sound on the street, and it's still a sauna in your apartment. He goes, you take so many things for granted. He wasn't criticizing. He was just like, do you realize how good you have it? He goes, it's hot. You get up, you crank up the AC, you go back to bed. Because God forbid you should be hot for an hour or two. So his point was they had to always put up with a lot. They had to defer gratification. There was much more suffering, much more hardship. Now, that was 2004. He says, I'm talking now like 1960. He goes, that's just 40 at the time, right? That's just 40 years ago. Like, you guys got it good, man. Like, don't complain. And that's always stayed with me. But really, I'm being honest. We want everything and we want it now. We're a very impatient people. And, after all the destruction that Biden, the Democrats have wreaked, let's give Trump 18 months. I think the man's earned it. I think the man deserves it. I don't think it's unreasonable. 18 months is not forever, but that's me. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Lee in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Lee, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Lee.
I did watch. I watched last night every minute, and I have about 3 comments here. First of all, I thought it was an excellent speech. It's right to the point. I really wish all his speeches would be like that and not an hour and a half. It becomes almost tedious to watch. but he made his point. He was right on target on many of our issues. And I want to say something. The gentleman from New Hampshire that, he was correct. I mean, you work for what you have. I'm a seasoned citizen. I don't call myself a senior citizen. I call myself a seasoned citizen because I watched what my parents did and how they provided for us back then and how they tried to make ends meet. Well, a lot of people are doing that today, so it's not so different. But here's my take. He only missed, in my opinion, one issue, and that is the issue at the grocery store and department stores. Now, if he had said, I am going to announce tonight that starting January 1st, I will give a tax incentive to every major grocery store. It's not the little mom and pops, but the major grocery stores will have a tax incentive if they bring their prices down at that end of the chain. That will affect me in a positive way, and many other seasoned citizens and families trying to make ends meet. Now, in addition to grocery stores, department stores, a tax incentive to all the stores in Simon Mall, the Macy's, the Targets, the Walmarts, a tax incentive to bring their pricing down, because that's where the problem lies. They're used to getting $2.99, for example, for eggs. 5 years ago, 2020, they were 99 cents, 89 and 99 cents a dozen. Today, they're $2.99. The cheapest you can find is $2.99. That's a 202% jump in 5 years. Milk, 99 cents in 2020. $1.59 on the average for a quart of milk now. 61% more since 2020. So the gentleman that said we should stop complaining, it's not complaining. We're concerned. We're concerned.
Well, yeah, and not only are you concerned, I would say even, to be frankly, look, I'm getting a lot of texts and a lot of emails, and I'm very sympathetic, believe me. Yeah, okay, Jeff, sure, we're willing to tighten our belts. Yeah, sure, we're willing to be patient. But, Jeff, our backs are against the wall. I mean, we're living hand to mouth. That's what, and for a lot of people, that's what they're saying. And I understand. We're barely making ends meet. We're working and paying taxes, and everything is still very expensive. It's easy to say be patient, but, you got to put food on the table and feed your family. And everything has just become so exorbitantly expensive that, you're barely making your rent, you're barely paying your bills, you're barely putting food on the table. It's very stressful. I understand. I really do. That's why I'm not saying, give the guy forever. That's why I'm really been urging Trump for a while. You've got to focus on like a laser beam. And in particular, remember what they said during the 1992 election campaign? It's the economy, stupid. Okay. It's the affordability, stupid. If it was like one line, that's the issue. You've got to get prices down. You've got to get more money into people's pockets. You've got to ease this affordability crisis. Okay, this broke maybe about half an hour ago, 40 minutes ago. But anyway, it just, I guess, reinforce my point about giving President Trump time. The latest inflation numbers are in, what they call the Consumer Price Index. And inflation now, unexpectedly, liberal economists, the New York Times is losing its mind. Their heads are exploding. It has unexpectedly now eased even more. It is now down to 2.7%. They were thinking it was going to be at 2.9, maybe even 3%. No. So inflation slowly, Takes time. You can tell he's squeezing it out of the economy bit by bit. So he's curbing it and curbing it and curbing it. It's now slowed down to 2.7%. So, A, cut those freaking interest rates so people can start buying homes again and get this economy moving. And he is slowly but surely, he is strangling inflation out of the economy, choking it bit by bit. 617-266-6868. Richard in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Richard, and welcome.
Jeff, and good morning, Jeff. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Richard.
Thank you. I don't necessarily agree with your assessment because for many reasons. Are you familiar with the K economy? They're calling it the K economy, these economists. Are you familiar with that?
Not really, but Richard, let's just not keep it. Let's not get into a philosophical or theoretical discussion. What is it about the Trump economy of the last 11 months that Richard in New Hampshire is not happy with? Just give me the specifics, my friend. Go.
Well, it's all based in bonds. All of our debt has been and is being transferred into bonds, into the bond market. The penny was eliminated with the minting, which is extremely alarming, which is because it is the most significant and identifiable asset of our monetary system. And that's been eliminated. The Federal Reserve, it's all going into the bond market. And this inflation number that's lowering is a false number as a result of it, because it's really all based on speculation.
So, Richard, let me ask you this, because look, you and I are going to agree on the Federal Reserve. I hate the Federal Reserve. If I had things my way, I would abolish the Federal Reserve. I think it's been a disaster for this country. The way I would do it, though, is I would audit it. Why audit it? So the American people could see how corrupt it is. And my God, how much of our money they steal and misuse and waste. So I would expose the corruption. Then the people would see how corrupt, and then they would say, yeah, get rid of it. So you're not going to get an argument out of me on the Federal Reserve. What I want to ask you is this. In your life, Richard and New Hampshire, your food, your gas, your mortgage, your car insurance, across the board, is your life better or worse over the last 11 months?
Arbitrary of a thing to say. Overall, I would say that it's marginally better, but not necessarily, because of the fluctuations that are going on in the bond markets and in the energies, the energy sector of the economy, which drives everything. And the prices have gone down marginally, but they haven't gone down enough at all. And there's no reason for example, gasoline to be more than $1 a gallon, and even that is expensive if you know what gasoline is, which is a byproduct of the refining process. And it's just the whole idea of basing an economy on speculation and moving us towards a total digital currency, which Trump is doing through the Genius Act and through the big bill, the great big beautiful bill, the Genius Act, which is unprecedented. I think we're heading for a real big disaster.
I hope you're wrong.
I just believe
Richard,
that.
I really hope you're wrong. Look, I can just tell you this. I'm against a digital currency. I agree with you. I think it is very dangerous. I don't like it. I know under Trump, in his first term, he had gas down to $1.89. I'd like to see, I agree with you. I think gas should be much, much lower. But I think we can do $1.89. I think we can do way under $2. And I think once you get it under $2, you're really going to start to feel an improvement. There's way too much speculation. There's way too much debt. On all of that, I agree with you. But you know what they say. I mean, it's just he's one man and he can only do so much. But no, and I don't like a universal digital ID. That's what they want. They want a universal digital ID and a digital currency. That's one of the ultimate objectives of the globalists. And we have to fight them on that tooth and nail. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Another, I think, important theme of Trump's address last night that almost nobody's commenting on is, he's remanufacturing our reshoring our economy, bringing back manufacturing, reindustrializing our economy. The tariffs clearly are working. That is indisputable. We've had a tariff system for most of our history. It was indispensable to the United States becoming one of the world's greatest economic powers. The era of free trade over the last, say, 30 years has been a disaster, especially for blue-collar, middle, working-class people. But the other thing that you saw under Biden, and this was a model pushed hard by Biden, Obama, and the Democrats, was the complete betrayal of the middle working class. I'm not just talking about trade and free trade and the outsourcing of so many jobs, but also how wealth was being transferred from the productive, hardworking citizens to either the 1%, okay, the big Wall Street firms, hedge funds, the big corporations that were just outsourcing everything, whole factories, industries, jobs to cheap labor across the world, but also bringing in an army of illegal aliens, cheap labor, which were cutting down wages and stealing jobs, especially from American workers, and then all of them being on welfare as they're also taking jobs under the table. And so the middle working class was getting bled on two fronts. One, they were feeding the 1%, but they were also feeding off of these underclass, these welfare illegal aliens and welfare deadbeats. And so the productive classes were subsidizing the unproductive classes. Okay? In other words, the makers, the tax producers, were essentially subsidizing the takers, the tax consumers. And in particular, those on welfare, the illegal aliens who were just bleeding the middle class and are bleeding the middle class white. So, Trump said, I'm reversing that. I'm literally doing the exact opposite. I'm imposing tariffs. So now we're no longer offshoring. Sorry, we're no longer outsourcing. Forgive me. We're offshoring. We're bringing stuff back. Okay, it's coming back to the United States. So workers now are going to have jobs. They're going to be protected in their jobs. They're going to have higher wages. But what I'm also doing is I'm creating jobs now, not for illegal aliens, but for hardworking, native-born American citizens. So the productive from the middle is not going to be subsidizing the 1% and that massive illegal alien underclass. No. We're going to flip it. This economy is going to work for the middle and for working class Americans. Listen now to President Trump. Roll cut 12, Mike.
In the year before my election, all net creation of jobs was going to foreign migrants. Since I took office, 100% of all net job creation has gone to American-born citizens. 100%. In the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws, cheat the system, and seek power and profit at the expense of our nation. Look at Minnesota, where Somalians have taken over the economics of the state, and have stolen billions and billions of dollars from Minnesota and indeed from the United States of America. And we're going to put an end to it.
God bless you. Amen, brother. And here it is. Okay. To me, this was one of the most important lines and points of the entire address. He's basically what he's saying is we're rebuilding the old American economy. We're doing away with this globalist economy based on open borders, free trade, and cheap labor that has destroyed and hollowed out the middle class. We're going to build this country again from the middle. Listen now to Trump. Roll cut 12A, Mike.
For so long as before my election, the vast majority of good and decent Americans were forced to watch as corrupt politicians plundered the halls of power, exploited our taxpayers, and pillaged every system that makes civilized society function. But not anymore, and you see that every day, not anymore. We're putting America first, and we are making America great again. Very simple. We are making America great again.
Do you feel this is happening? Maybe too slowly for your taste, but still, do you feel that Trump is slowly but surely reshaping and transforming our economy into one that works for productive, patriotic, hard-working American citizens? Yes, no. Jason in Foxborough. Thanks for holding, Jason, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. First off, little nervous here. I've never spoke with you, but been listening to you since your drive time.
Welcome, Jason. You're among friends. Go ahead.
Thank you. First off, yes, we are better off than what we were since the previous administration. But a couple of things that I want to make a point to, and I had to write them down because I don't want to be all over the page here. It's been a very short political time since Trump has been trying to implement his plans. That being said, also, it's unbelievable about how politically ignorant, and I'm going to use that term, politically ignorant on both sides of the Republican and Democratic voters who can't put it together. He just can't flip a switch. There's been 15 to 20 illegal aliens that we pay for. On that note, along with the immigration damage that this has caused, just the other day, there was a little blurb, and the legacy media is horrific, as we know, that it was in North Carolina, South Carolina, there's been a significant increase in measles alone. If they just focus on how much disease has been increased in recent time from the prior administrations, and just look at it, the critical thinking in this country, short-term people who can't figure it out, is mind-boggling. Even in my own household, I'm in a minority on this type of thinking. And the other thing is with the corruption on the DNC both times, it just blows my mind. And that political, short-term, critical thinking is terrible. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Thank you, Jason, for taking my call.
Jason, before you go, and by the way, you did great. Please, and don't be a stranger. Call again. Jason, your home, your family, your household, over the last 11 months, I know it's only 11 months, but still, it's basically his first year in office. Okay, let's not quibble. Has your quality of life, your standard of living, your cost of living, better, worse? Were you better off under Biden? Are you better off under Trump? Is it the same? Do you notice that we're turning a corner? Do you feel like we're turning a corner? Or do you feel we're still stuck in a rut? It's no different than it was under Biden. What's your experience like for you and your family?
Saying being better off in the Biden administration is a joke. And in this current administration, absolutely within the last, 11 months since he's been in office. 100%. Slowly but surely, I can see it. My background has been in the emergency system in the field on a high level, as well as educational with significant high-end medical equipment. Retired, and I have seen things change over the years that would be mind-blowing to a lot of different people if they just were able to think about what's going on and get the actual data out. once again, that legacy media on what they're pumping and brainwashing a lot of people that absorb it is mind-boggling to me. And I just walk around shaking my head, Jeff. I can't believe it.
Oh,
it's
you're
very
dead
sad.
on. Jason, you're dead on. Jason, I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And again, don't be a stranger. Call again, my friend. Look, just the illegal immigration alone. Let's leave out everything else. Do you know what a drain that is on the country? On our wealth, on our social services, on our health care, on our hospitals, on our education. I mean, I could go on and on. 617-266-6868. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
First of all, Jeff, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your vacation. I'm going to be going through Kuhner withdrawal for the next 2 weeks. Your show is better than recreational drugs. And Jeff, you know how many times I get up on Saturday morning and I go to turn the radio on, I say, oh, no Jeff today. How am I going to survive? Oh, God.
Russ, thank you,
Jeff,
thank you.
Listen,
Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Russ.
thank you very much. And Jeff, never forget, I love you in a non-sexual way, okay? All right? Don't ever forget that, all right? Jeff, I'm tired of listening to the same whining conservatives that get sucked in by the Democratic Party propaganda. Face reality, blaming Mara Healey. We must blame Mara Healey, the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, for the high cost of living here in Massachusetts. It's not Trump's fault by any means. My supplemental health insurance has gone up 16%. I know better than to blame President Trump. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. President Trump is doing everything on the international stage to keep the communist China from taking over the world, and at the same time, he's improving the economy and stopping the border invasion and making life safer at home for all of us. And please keep that in mind every time someone opens their mouth against Donald Trump. What I just said is the absolute truth, and you can't deny it. And if many conservatives stay home in the midterms, Jeff, the country will go communist for sure. Okay, and once it goes communist, there's no turning back. It's the end of the road. And Jeff, I fear the next election. Being a Massachusetts resident all my life, I do not trust the judgment of the mass voters for sure. Okay? They've disappointed me so many times over the years.
Russ, I'm with you all the way. I never trust the mass voter. Oh, they always get it wrong practically. Although I got to say, Healy, she's really unpopular. I mean, if the Republicans don't win next year for the governorship, I think it's time to seriously consider getting rid of the Massachusetts Republican Party. But I'm with you, Russ. Those moonbats, the moonbats in this state, never count them out. Never count them out. Russ, to me, it's Trump or bust. I'm with you. It's Trump or communism. Take your pick. And that's why, please God, fingers crossed, I'm hoping, I'm praying that the economy really begins to take off next year. I'm talking massive boom, because we've got to win those midterms. Russ, again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, buddy, and God bless you, really. And again, thank you for your service, Russ. You know how much I love you Vietnam vets, all the vets, but especially you Vietnam vets. 617-266-6868. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hey, Kuhner, man.
Andy.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, to Dr. Grace, and the kids.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Andy. Andy, we've got about 2 minutes left. Please, go ahead. Let her rip, my friend.
Okay. President Trump hit it out of the park yesterday with his address to the nation. What he needs to do now is he needs to transition that into a weekly fireside chat from the Resolute desk. Because every week he's got to hit a different point on the economy and the cost of living, and that will circumvent the legacy media and get his message directly out to the American people. And also, Jeff, I've noticed that in the last week or so, gas prices have cratered significantly, down to $2.66 a gallon in our area. Cheap, reliable energy is going to be our way out of this, Jeff. And the final point is, the final leg of this really has to do with a state-level issue here in Massachusetts. We have to have a grassroots revolution to end this green energy scam. And also to get Massachusetts out of net zero. A lot of our listeners up in New Hampshire need to do the same. New Hampshire's freer than Massachusetts, but New Hampshire's also in this net zero scheme. Ending that's going to be key. We do that, Jeff, cost of living is going to come down significantly.
Andy, I'm telling you, you're a genius. I've only got 30 seconds, but let me just say this. That's why I'm going to do everything in my power next year. You have my word of honor to get Maura Healey defeated.